guys, we have episode 4, heel shaping. And the unique thing about heel shaping in this video is that we've got two different dogs that we're going to use as examples for heel shaping. Now, unfortunately for you, I am not an expert at recording videos and getting good sound. So the latter half of the video is me working with a dog named Bandit, and the audio did not record from the entire lesson. So no audio for that one, but let's start with George. All right, guys, check it out.
Hiya, Georgie.
Hi, sweet boy. All right, so I recorded my walking lesson. That was one of them that didn't get any audio, so we'll use this one as the audio. So when I teach dogs to walk, I take a very specific approach to teaching walking, and it's not just because George, and it's not just because you got a busy street out front. I start in the house when I'm teaching walking, because if we're to take George out and walk 20 feet, he's liable to do 20 things wrong in 20 feet. And we know that George is a sensitive, soft little butterfly. And if we correct him for all 20 things, which we should do because that's going to hold him accountable, he's probably not going to want to walk. He's probably going to be very resistant. And as we learned from last week, if he doesn't want to do it, he's just going to pop out of his collar. And so what we want to make sure is that we give him a very sterile environment to learn this heel command. And heel command is going to mean walk with me. And so starting in the house kind of keeps him from, doing 20 things wrong and us correcting him and then him getting melodramatic about it, or us ignoring him and then him learning by proxy that those things are all okay to do. Okay? You ready? You seem ready, buddy. What side do you want him walking on?
It doesn't bother. Probably the right side.
Okay. Perfect. And so what I will tell you is the right side, if that's where you want him to be, that's where he's always going to be. The reason I say that is because if George can get treats on the left side and if he can get treats on the right side, then there's no like concrete spot there. He can kind of just divert wherever he'd like to go. And that's part of one of the many issues that people have with walking their dogs, is they just don't have any structure in their walk. And they're like, we look at George and we go, "Hey, George, walk next to me." And he goes, "I have no idea what you're saying." And we're like, "Hey, George, we really love you. Walk next to us." And he goes right to the end of the leash. And that's normal because he just doesn't know what to do. So the first drill that we're going to do is really, really simple. And George can do well at this one. And that's treating down our hip. So legitimately, all I'm doing is giving George a treat down my hip. He doesn't have to do anything. Generally, it's going to be easier if he's facing the same direction as me, but I'm treating down my hip. Okay? And the reason that I'm doing this, because if you think about lesson 1 and lesson 2, we've been treating right in front of him, facing him, giving him our frontal picture as we reward him. And so it would make sense for George to expect treats right in front of us. So rather than continuing that, giving him treats down our right hip starts to create a different image for him as far as what he should expect. Okay? Now, George is like the perfect dog for this in terms of his breed. But when we talk about retrievers in general, and I'm going to say generally, because if I say all the time, somebody's going to crap their pants over this. But generally, if you're working a retriever for somebody, you set up the same scenario that person's going to do in the fall. So, or whatever bird season that the dog is being used for, you set it up exactly the same way that the owner's going to do it. So if I want my dog on the left side, and I'm going to sit on the right side, and I've got his little blind set up here and my blind set up here, that's the way we're going to train it. Like I'm going to train, using my shotgun, have my dog right here, and I'm going to replicate exactly what you guys are going to do in the hunting season. If I were to do the opposite, and let's say you did left side and I did right side, that whole training cycle that I was doing, doing all of this work on, I did it on the right side and then you had him on the left side. There's a lot of things that could potentially happen. One, he could flare your birds by running early and then you don't get any birds. It's a total waste of time, total waste of trip. Or he doesn't move the first time you shoot the shotgun and you're like, hey, George, go get the birds. And he's like, hey, Dad, go get your own birds. And then you're swimming out to go get your own birds. And a lot of people will overlook this, and you'll see it in a lot of different walking videos that trainers put out there. You'll never see them start with.
Generally, here on YouTube, the trainer-led videos on how to fix your dog's walking generally starts and ends with corrections. Rather than ask the question, does this dog ever have to listen to its human on the leash before walking? They just go straight to corrections. And that may work for some time with some dogs, but the reality of why I do place command first, sit and down second, and then I start to shape the walk is because I want these dogs to start to understand that they have to listen to us generally on the leash. Like they just have to listen to us in general on the leash. And I start that way because it creates a different presence by the time you get to walking.
Shaping that position by teaching the dog where you'd like him to be. Okay? This is why I start with it. I've started with plenty of dogs like this. You could absolutely start with pressure, but we have a little idea of how George is going to respond to pressure. He's going to get melodramatic about it.
As if.
So rather than get him melodramatic, let's really shape what we'd like with this first drill by just treating down our hip. Cool? Super simple. The second drill that were those good today? The second drill that we're going to do with George is going to be 4 corners. And it's aptly named because we're only going to use 3.
So the rules of 4 corners is you want to pick a corner that allows the dog to be able to sit or lay down all the way behind you. So you pick corners that allows the dog to have enough space to kind of sit or lay along your hip and have the rest of their back end be covered by the place command. And then this isn't a pass or fail exercise. This isn't something that's going to make or break your heel. However, this is something that you can apply to create better connection to the dog being down either side that you choose while walking. So great drill to do with a dog, very easy to do. Some dogs suck at it. George isn't very good at it, but we do it anyway.
Corners. But I'm going to line myself up with this front corner here, which allows George to have all of this distance back here for him to stick his butt. I'm going to grab a treat. I'm going to stick it to his nose. I'm going to bring in a little bit of lead. I'm going to say, George, follow the treat, buddy. There you go. Good job. And I'm going to bring him to this opposite corner here. Now I'm going to take a treat out again, and I'm going to say, George, and he's going to be an athlete and keep his butt on the ground. Way to go. That was sarcasm, by the way. This drill is taking drill number 1 and applying movement to it. So drill number 1 is us treating down our hip, getting him used to the idea of receiving treats down our hip, and then moving with him. Now, most training companies teach place command. Most trainers teach place command, but they do it 1 week and then you never touch it again. I use this almost the entirety of our training. And the reason that I use this is because, I mean, it makes things easier. Think about trying to lure George on the carpet here. I mean, it's kind of like herding a cat. You know, he's going to be excited. He's going to get lost. He's going to get distracted. There is an implied stay with this command.
4 corners can be a good drill that you can try with a dog that struggles with just overall too much excitement on the end of that leash. You put them up on the place command. They already know place command, so you have that implied stay built into that command. Give it a try.
So in theory, it makes it a little bit easier for us to get George to move around at our hip position while he's stuck on here. Okay? Now, if he just plops down like he's doing right now, that's no big deal. You can release him from it, put him back on the place, see if he changes his mind and starts being a little bit more active. But the good thing about this drill is it's not a pass or fail. So like this isn't something that's going to make or break his ability to do heel. This is just something that helps to add and kind of shape what we want out of that heel. Okay? George, free buddy. Good job. Way to go, bud. Oh my goodness, you got off there so easy. Okay, come on, place. Good job. Ready, bud? So again, I'm going to take the treat. I'm going to say, George. He's like, I will keep my butt on this platform.
So if I was working with a dog like George at my house and George was boarding training and I saw that George just wasn't interested in doing the four corners, I would just move on to the next drill, which is going to be heel laps. However, as I'm teaching the client, I want the client to have every skill, every tool to potentially do the right thing.
Yeah, he's like, I got it. I see what I worked on all week. George, come on. There you go, buddy. Good job. Now, ideally, in an ideal world, I'd want George to be up and kind of moving around on this. But we know that George is a nervous, scared dog. And he's like, nope, I got to plant my butt here and I can't remove it because I don't want to get corrected. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it is who he is. And so, again, this isn't a pass or fail exercise. This is just something to create that image for him that he needs to walk around at our hip. Okay, so this one is four corners. And now it would make it easier if he did have his butt up and was moving, because I could show you the second part of what I'm teaching him today other than heel. Heel is going to mean walk with me, but we're also teaching him that when we stop, he has to sit. We're teaching him an implied sit when we stop. And the reason I'm teaching him an implied sit when we're walking versus, me just asking him to sit is because if I teach him to look at us, and then when he sees us stop, he sits, he's paying attention to us. Versus like right now on the walk, he might be paying attention to you 40% of the time. So we want to create an incentive for him to look at us. And that implied sit when we stop is an incentive. Okay? And so if you're working this drill with him this week and he decides to stay upright and not sit down, when you get to your corner and you go to stop, just bring your treat up so that way he sits or lays down, and then give him that treat, tell him good. Okay? All right. The last drill, and we'll see how George does with this one. The last drill is going to be heel laps. And heel laps are essentially a shortened version of what we're going to do out there. We're going to take anywhere from as short as, George, don't make me a liar today. As short as 3 feet. For some dogs, I take legitimately 3 feet to start the heel with them. Or we could do 6 feet, or we could do 12 feet. It kind of just depends on what George is capable of. And we're going to start at one position, and we're going to stop at another. We're going to say heel as we step off, guide him with the treat, and then we're going to get to the end and bring the treat up so it encourages him to sit. Once he sits, good boy, treat, and then release. Okay? There are 3 stages to the heel laps. There is treat in hand, saying the word, no treat in hand, saying the word, and then just regular old walking, no lure, no hand, saying the word, getting to your location. I'm going to try and do a few repetitions with George, like an exaggerated, sped up version of what you're going to do this week, just so you can kind of see him work through it. But more than likely, this is something that you're going to have to do a lot of repetitions. Before you move to the next tier of it, you want to make sure you've done enough repetitions that he gets the memo. Okay? This isn't one of those things that we just want to speed through and then he is 50-50 on it. Because especially with you being right out here, if he's 50-50 on it and he decides, I don't want to do something, the last thing I want is him popping out of his collar and then taking off. So, you ready, George? Oh my goodness, yeah. Okay, free. Here, buddy. And I'm bringing George at my right side using the treat rather than the leash. So I'm going to say heel. We're going to start walking. Come on. Right here, buddy. Right here. There's that scary hardwood. Right here, bud. George. Right here. You got to be brave, buddy. Come on. Come on. Right here. There you go. Good boy. Good.
All right, guys, if you're paying attention, if you remember what we talked about with George from the beginning, George is a nervous, fearful dog. And as you can see right now, we're using a treat, and he's like, nope, nope, can't handle it, can't walk to the edge of the carpet in the living room. I can't do it. And so the reason I go through this, the reason I record this, is so we can sit back and we can kind of look at the situation and go, what could I do different in this moment? Or what is my dog doing differently that I need to do to get them where I need to be? After I'm reviewing this right now, I know in a couple of repetitions, I'm going to go just straight to leash pressure. I'm going to remove the treat and I'm just going to guide him with the leash. I'm going to stop trying to give him the treat and I'm just going to use leash pressure, and George is going to succeed that way. And so this is the most important thing I want you guys to grasp about these dog training videos, is there is not one way to get dogs to do things. There's multiple ways to get dogs to do things, but ultimately you need to be able to be open enough to review what you're doing, pause, and give your dog what it needs versus what you want to give it. All right, guys, let's get back into it.
Good job. Free. Good. Now this isn't very far at all, but George is petrified of the hardwood. So we got to work with what we've got here. And so rather than me go, let me take George outside, try it right there in the driveway, cars going by, people going by, like all of those potential distractions, let's start small and build up to a good heel with him. And I think we've talked about this, and I'm sure it's been on the video before, but our generation struggles with delayed gratification. And I don't think it's exclusively like to our age bracket. I think it's the people that live right now. Like the people that don't know how to use phones, they don't struggle with delayed gratification. But the people that all do know how to use cell phones all struggle with delayed gratification. And dogs, I would argue that dogs and kids are the two biggest losers in those situations. For us, we're pessimistic about things. Our goals aren't great enough. They're not happening fast enough. But like our kids and our dogs are the ones that are going to suffer the most, because a lot of people think, oh, well, I did one lesson with him, he should be good to go. He's not. We still have to teach him. In the same way with a kid, like we're not doing one parenting lesson 20 minutes a day and then that's it. Hey, go figure it out now. That's not how that works. And so with the heel command, heel isn't hard to teach. It's the environment that we teach it in. So if we create a really good base layer with George, that when we say the word heel, he has to follow us, he has to stay in step with us, then the minute we go outside and we start to increase the stimulation, he has a good solid base layer of how he's supposed to walk. So then we apply a small correction and he's like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, I'll get right back at your heel. Versus if I lean on that correction first, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. So we'll try that again. You ready, bud? So I'm going to take the treat. I'm going to bring him along my right side. I'm going to say, George, heel. Come on. There you go. Come on. Right here. Come on, you big chicken. Good boy. Good. Take the crumb. Free. All right. Come on. So now I'm going to go to stage 2. Empty hand. George, heel. What's funny is most of the time I set like a platform up like this to be a barrier for dogs. Well, the floor is lava for George, so the carpet just ends up being a barrier for him.
So the barrier is important because what it allows you to do is it allows you to have the dog stop alongside you and sit alongside you versus moving out in front and sitting in front of you. If you guys struggle with your dog sitting in front of you when you stop, walk into a wall or some kind of barrier for several repetitions and reward the dog for sitting alongside you, because the wall inherently keeps them from sitting in front of you. Give that a try and see if it works for you.
Free. Good job, buddy. That hound that I started with, that I recorded the whole lesson and he was barking in my face, it was like the like pinnacle really good lesson. They'd worked with like 3 balance trainers who had told them that, hey, treats were going to have to be like the majority of their life for the rest of their life. And like they were going to have to just live with their dog being a psychopath and all of these things. And they'd never corrected the dog. And he was growling in my face as I walked in and back barking. And they're like telling him, hey, it's okay, it's okay. And no, stop. They're like telling him, hey, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And I'm like, stop, hold your word vomit. It's not necessary. He is okay. And they're like, do you like, what do you want us to do? And I'm like, just be quiet. Just give me the leash. Let me put the slip lead on him. Now he was 75 pounds or 80 pounds. So I put the slip lead on him, and it was like a straw wrapper going around an animal. And he was like, I don't care at all. I'm going to just keep barking in your face. So we put the chain on him, and then he was grumbling and growling at me and giving me all the looks like, get out of here. I corrected him twice with the choke chain. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to stop that. And they were like, this dog has never settled in the 8 months that we've had him here at our house. And I'm like, again, it's pressure. If you know how to use it in the right way, it's magic.
Oh my God! Wow!
You know, well, it's not magic. It's always supposed to be there, but it's seemingly magic because a lot of modern trainers don't understand it, or they're afraid of it morally or ethically. However they're afraid of it, they're afraid of it. Okay, so now let's do a little bit longer of a distance. Come here, bud. Come on. Come on. There you go. Put your butt in front of the camera. There you go. Ready? Heel. George. Good. Good boy. Now, believe it or not, this could be really good for you for practicing wise. And what I might do is I might stop using the treat because he's seemingly getting more and more amped up. So I might go back to just using the leash and working through him with that. Ready? Heel. George. Good boy. Good. Free. Okay, come on. Right here, right here. George. Ready? Heel. George. Good. So this isn't a far distance by any means, but this is a conditioned repetition, or it's like a controlled repetition. I'm saying heel, we're starting walking, I'm saying his name at the end, he's sitting, I'm rewarding him. It's very sterile. And so what we should look to do is kind of build this as he does well with this. Like, we shouldn't stick to just this distance, and we shouldn't just stick to the lured in the word. Like, we should work our way to an empty hand in the word and then just the word with him.
All right, guys, this next bit of footage is me working with Bandit, and as you could see, it said no audio because my microphones suck. Bandit, I drive about an hour to go see Bandit. He lives in rural Illinois. He's a hound dog, a bigger hound dog, and he's got a little bit of very expressive behavior and nature about him. He gets excited, and people that aren't good with dogs, they don't really know how to handle it. And so here you can see Bandit works a little bit differently than George does, which allows us to see a different perspective of doing the same drills. Drill number 1, starting with treating down the hip. We want to position Bandit where we want him to be on the walk, and we give him a treat down our hip. Very simple, guys. Don't overthink this. Drill number 2, 4 corners. And I'm kind of explaining here why we want to pick the corner that we're in versus all these other corners of the place command, and how it allows him to position his body where we want him to be. It makes it just very simple for him to be at our hip, which is where we want him to be when we say heel. And so we're kind of going through this, and you can see just right out the gate how differently Bandit works compared to George. Now he keeps his butt on the platform very similarly, and he pops up there at the end. And a lot of dogs will do that, especially after doing the down command in the lesson before. They'll get stuck in that down position. It's not a big deal. Just keep trying, guys. Drill number 3, heel laps. Believe it or not, I didn't have to clip a whole lot out of this because Bandit was pretty good at this. We say the word heel as we step off, hold the treat at his nose, and when we get to the barrier, we bring the treat up. We say the dog's name, the dog looks at us, the dog sits, dog gets the treat, free, and start again. So Bandit did really well at this, so I skipped right to stage 3. If your guys' dog struggles with walking, don't skip stage 2, do stage 2. But Bandit, I just said heel, we took off, we walk together, we get to the barrier, he sits, treat, good boy, free, start again.